Hey, this is Mad Movie Mark of the Mad Movie Mark Movie Review. Thank you for joining me as I review the 2019 drama Chained for Life.
I do not know whether he is a genius or a madman.
Oh wow, those are the only two options. Well, I hope we don't go with Madman because I don't believe that I am in fact a madman. I will say that this movie was incredibly confusing for me. I'm still not 100% sure that I understood this movie. I understood what was going on or why things were happening, but I can go ahead and give it my best shot here. Chained for Life does have a 100% fresh rating from the critics on Rotten Tomatoes and a 56% fresh rating from the audience. I am currently reviewing every movie that has a 100% fresh rating from the critics in chronological order. This movie stars Adam Pearson as Rosenthal and Jess Wexler as Mabel. It is a movie in which they are filming a movie that is set in a hospital of people with disformities. One of those patients in the hospital is Rosenthal, and Mabel plays his blind girlfriend in the movie. Now, this movie jumps back and forth between filming the movie and reality and what's actually going on in the world, and it does this in a way that it's almost impossible to tell which is happening as it's happening. You don't actually know if you're in reality or if you're in the setting of the movie until it is revealed during the scene. So if you're watching the movie and you're like, okay, I think that this is something that they're filming, or this is something that's actually happening in real life, you're probably wrong, because it's impossible to figure out what's going on if they're actually in the movie, if they're actually things that are happening at that time. This movie tries really hard to make you feel for the character of Rosenthal, who he almost has, I think, what the Elephant Man had in real life, that same of disformity. The problem with his character is, and the problem that I really felt here, is that he feels bad about himself through the entire movie, but he's actually kind of come to terms with what's going on. So he's come to terms with the fact that he's going to be single his whole life, and he's come to terms with the fact that animals find him to be scary and people find him to be scary, and this is just the kind of life he lives because of the way he looks. And I think they're trying to do a bigger picture here of this is what people with deformities and these kind of issues go through their everyday lives, and it's a really sad situation that they live in that they didn't ask for, and it's a real sad situation that they are put in that is not their fault. The only problem is I don't know if he actually feels that way or if that is just something that he was supposed to be feeling for the movie, because I never know if we're in movie or real life. And also another issue that I had with this is that you never get any real background on who Rosenthal is as a person. You only get him as he is okay with what's going on in his life, and he's kind of accepted what's going on, but you don't get any background as to who he was or who he is, or it's really hard to care about him as a character because you don't really know who he is. So that was a problem for me. I feel like if you're going to try to put the audience in a situation where you have this character who has deformities and you're supposed to care about him, you shouldn't just care about him because he has deformities. You should care about him because of who he is as a person and who he is as a character, and you never learn anything about him, and it's really frustrating that you never learn anything about him at all. And then you have Jess Wexler, who as Mabel, who I think Mabel is supposed to be trying to understand who this person is, and as an act so that she can understand who she's acting with in this movie. It seems like throughout this movie she, in real life, might have a crush on this guy, or she's finding out that he's a really good person inside, and that she's trying to figure out who he is on the inside and not look at his deformities on the outside. It's just I couldn't figure out if she actually was having a crush on this guy, or if that was just because of her character in the movie was having a crush on this guy. Like, I really struggled in this movie trying to figure out what was present and what was actual movie, and it's never really. I never really felt like it was handled in a way to where you could figure that out. Like, does she actually have a crush on him? At the end of the movie, I was led to believe that she does have a crush on him, but then it's like it's part of the movie again. So like, the way this movie is told, the way the story is told, is just very confusing to me. I didn't really understand it at all, and it really, for me, made the movie suffer a lot. And then at the end of the movie, where she gives she's in the car and she's driving with this driver who talks about how he's an actor and how he's written a book and all these things. I think there's some plot in this movie where like people are dying. There's like a serial killer at some point in this movie. And I almost felt like this driver at the end of the movie is the serial killer because he's acting very shady and he's acting like he might be a serial killer. And they focus a lot of time on this conversation that they're having in this car where he's just boasting about himself and how he's this great person. And they were supposed to take a certain route to in this car where she was going, and he says they can't go that route because there's a crash or something, which is kind of shady, but they never like go back to that at all. And you don't actually understand why this conversation is happening and if this guy really is the killer, because it just cuts away to everyone else, all the other actors in a bus, like talking to it, like just sitting around, driving away. So the ending is very confusing very confusing in its own right. Now, there are other things in this movie where the actors who have these deformities, they are forced to like live and work in the hospital itself. So they don't have like their own dressing room. They don't have their own place to go after work. They have to like stay in this hospital. And while they're in this hospital, they talk about movies they would like to make, or they talk about like if they weren't actors, what kind of other jobs they would have if they could have other jobs. And Rosenthal said he would want to be a waiter, but they keep making him change like his story because he talks about how he would be a waiter in a diner. They're like, oh, this is your dream and you'd be in a diner, so he has to change it up to something else. And then when he says what kind of food he would serve, they like make fun of the kind of food he would serve. Like he has this dream of becoming a waiter, but they kind of keep crushing his dream and he has to keep changing his dream. I don't know if that's supposed to be like be a bigger issue or a bigger deal than it actually was. I absolutely have no idea. So in short, like I really had a hard time caring about this character of Rosenthal. Yes, he has a deformity, and yes, he's treated differently on set and he's treated differently by other people because he has this deformity, and he's come to the realization that that's just how his life is going to be, and he is no longer trying to pursue like a relationship or trying to pursue happiness in his life because he's come to the conclusion that he is not going to have that same kind of happy life that other people have because of the way he looks and because of the way he was born. But that being said, I really, you have to figure that all out yourself. And I really don't feel like there was enough backstory with him. There was enough about who this person is as a person, who he is as a individual. They focus all on his deformity, and maybe they're doing that on purpose because that's something the movie is trying to say. Like, we're going to focus on this deformity, and you're never going to learn who he really is because that's how it really is in Hollywood, and that's how it really is in the movies with people who have deformities. Is that you're never going to really learn anything about them. You're just going to watch them on screen like they're circus actors and they're circus performers, and they're not going to have backstories, and they're not going to have really cool storylines, and they're just going to be people on screen that you're going to watch. Maybe that's what they're trying to say. Maybe there's like a bigger story here. Maybe there's a bigger issue that they're trying to deal with. I really have no idea. And to me, I mean, even with him not having a backstory and not caring about his character, that would be fine for me. Like normally it's frustrating, but I could get along with that if the movie was told in a way that made sense. I hate watching a movie when I think that there something's happening and it's not. When I think that they're actually in a movie scene and maybe it's not the movie scene, maybe it's real life, or I think it's real life and it's a movie scene and I have to get through the whole scene before I realize that it's not what I thought it was. It's just really frustrating. The whole movie was incredibly frustrating to me. It was incredibly confusing to me. That being said, there are some funny scenes in this movie. One really genius scene that I thought was really funny was when they introduced Rosenthal into the movie. He's supposed to step out of the shadow and he couldn't understand why his character was stepping out of the shadow. And the director kept trying to say, well, like, you're in the shadow and then it's like you're coming into reality, you're coming into life. Like, it's like you have this deformity and you're trying to step out into the world and say, like, look, this is me with my deformity. And he tried to say it's like Orson Welles in the Muppet movie, where at the end of the movie, like, there's this shadowy figure, and when he turns around, oh my god, it's Orson Welles, like the greatest actor / director of all time. It's amazing. And this is the kind of reveal that you're going to have in the movie when you step out of the shadow. This is going to be your Orson Welles moment, where you step out and people say, oh my god, look, it's Rosenthal, that's amazing. what a great scene in this movie. And he kept having to like explain it over and over again, and Rosenthal kept not understanding what was going on. And I thought that this was like a really funny scene in the movie, especially when you have like this serious type of scene and you mentioned like the Muppet movie and Orson Welles. I thought it was hilarious. They name drop a lot of big actors in this movie, like throughout the entire movie, trying to compare things to these great actors and everything. And the movie in itself, with these scenes with these actors with deformities, and they're talking to each other, and the kind of relationships that they have, a lot of the dialogue that they do is quite funny. It's just unfortunate to me that the story is told in a manner that makes absolutely no sense. And I'm completely lost through half the movie. And then at the end of the movie, it's like you have to come up with your own conclusion as to what happened. Was any of this actually real? Did any of this actually ever happen? Or was this just something that was made up? It's so weird. It's just, I don't know. I'm really torn on this movie because parts of it were good and parts of it were funny, and parts of the acting were quite good. I thought Rosenthal did quite a good job. Adam Pearson in this movie, and so did Jess Wexler. She did a good job too. It was just so confusing. And this is a movie that I'm honestly never going to watch again. None of my friends are going to want to watch this movie, so I don't think there's ever going to be a chance or an opportunity where I have to watch this movie again. And I honestly don't think I ever will, just because I didn't really enjoy it that much. I mean, that being said, I'm still going to give it a 7 out of 10. It wasn't absolutely terrible. It wasn't absolutely horrible. There were sparks of interest in this movie for me. There were sparks of things that were good, but as a whole, I would say the movie was just too confusing and not for me at all. Thank you. I hope you join me for the 7 out of 10. I'm not sure if I said that already, but I'm going to give this 7 out of 10. I hope you join me next time when I review an animated movie called Away. Thank you. Have a great day.